Hey guys, it's Vince. Today in this video I'm going to be discussing how to set up the G540 for motion inside Pumotix. So the first thing you're going to want to do after you've installed Pumotix is come over to the desktop icon, double click on it. Just wait for it to load, and of course you can see I have a lot of different versions on mine because I have every module available. In your case, typically you'll have the 3-axis if you have the base level version of the software, which is free, or if you've upgraded, again, you'll have the additional axis. In most circumstances, you'll be selecting typically 1, meaning the first one in the list. Again, you have the option to select dark or light format of the software, and you have the option to say do not ask me this anymore. And of course you can change this later on in the settings screen should you be desired to. Overall, I'm just going to click OK. Got an arbitrary piece of G code loaded here just for an example. First thing you're going to notice is controller is set to simulator mode, and that's because I do not have the PLCM controller connected. You will find that same if you do this as well. It's completely arbitrary as far as how you set it up, but again, Pumotix server is connected. You can see that. You can see the software is off because we have it on the power button. It's glowing red. If it glows green, it is on. You want it to be red. So what we're going to do is come over to configuration, go to settings, and you're going to come over here to motors. And you're going to add as many motors as required for the G540. Now we know the G540 is a 4-axis driver, so therefore you would hit 4 motors, 0, 1, 2, and 4. Typically it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, but they consider X 0, and these are arbitrary, guys. So don't look at this as being a definitive. You can come in here and change this description to whatever you want. Value should not be empty, and again, if you don't fill anything out, that's the way it'll be. Now, I recommend to my guys out there who are running different torque motors, if you have like a 600 ounce on your Z-axis, 300 ounce on your X and Y, this is a prime time to definitively put and categorize what motors you're using, because it'll give you an update just so you know as far as you actually accessing the screen. It's always good information to have. I always rather have too much information in my HUD rather than too little. So coming over here to your mapped axis, once again, very simple. Do your drop down. We're going to map our axis to the motor we just added. In this case, it'd be X, and you can see the drop down. I have a lot of options, once again, because I have more modules installed. You'll just go down a list, select X. Step pin, you can see it says sim before pin 2. And why it says sim, of course, because we're in simulator mode. Okay, so you'll find that too if you're in simulator mode. What we're going to do is leave the sim pin at 2, and of course we're going to go direction, sim pin 3, and you'll see that whatever you go to select, sim will be before it. Don't worry about it. The main thing you're worried about is pin 2 and pin 3. Pin 2 for step, pin 3 for direction on the X-axis. Y-axis, pin 4 on step, pin 5 on direction. Z-axis, pin 6 on step, pin 7 on direction, and A-axis, sim pin 8 on step, and sim pin 9 on direction. Now again, just so everybody's aware, the reason it says sim is because I'm in simulator mode. If the PLCM was connected, you would just see pin. So as far as additional signals, you can leave this default. Basically what it is you can see the little home icon. It means you have a home signal enabled. Now you can come over here and arbitrarily, if you click on this, you can select if you're using a physical switch. Matter of fact, like I said, the software is very, very logical in the sense of way things are explained. You leave your mouse cursor over, it's going to explain to you exactly what you've got to basically allocate. You can see here, input signal for home sensor of the motor. The home sensor is used to determine a reference point in the machine coordinates. If you want to actually allocate a switch, you would come over here and select what pin number you're going to allocate to the home signal, and that would be based on the G540's inputs. So again, I recommend just leaving this excuse me, just set configured the way it is at this point. You can remove these signals if you choose to, but right now they're just default set. So I would leave that the way it is. I highly recommend staying with soft limits in the beginning, and the reason I say that is the soft limits feature of this system is very powerful in that it's activated the second you enter the system once you set them up. Now, of course, you're responsible for setting them up. Once you do set them up, though, the software is actually going to protect your robot, which is by far and away much, much better than a physical switch will eventually fail, and you'll never know when. So again, once this is all set, we're going to get out of here. We're going to go to axis. Now you can see you've got your axis, selected axis, X, Y, Z, and A. what you would do is naturally come to the drop down, and on each one you want to enable soft limits for, or I should say you can, because again, free version of the software is going to give you 3 axes. Soft limits you want to enable, and I highly recommend everyone doing this, especially in the beginning. It's very simple to do. Lower limit, measure the lower limit of the machine, naturally be 0 as far as your x-axis in this case, and then your upper limit would be the longest measurement moving in the positive direction. You can see it's a positive number. And once again, if you leave your cursor there, it's going to break it down for you. Upper limit of tool movement for selected axis, and then over here, lower limit of tool movement for selected axis. So very, very logical, very, very simple. I have more features here because, again, I have additional modules. Very, very simple format. None of these numbers really come into play yet until you do axis calibration. So axis calibration, very, very straightforward process. It's got the wizards. We'll cover that at a later date. Overall, though, invert homing direction, you have this. If you want to actually reverse the way your system is homing on a specific axis, just do the drop down and you're pretty much set. Coming over here to input-output. Very simple. Input signal parameters on the left, and on the right, output signal parameters. Okay. Now, the G540, we've got that e-stop signal, okay, which is terminal 10 on the G540's terminal block. You want to set this up to pin 15, and once again, the sim pin is there because I'm in simulator mode. We set it up to pin 15. If you notice that when you trigger the e-stop, you're not getting the desired effect, you will select the invert box, and that's just going to invert the signal from high to low. Okay, so very, very simple. Every system may be slightly different on what switch you'll be using, so just keep that in mind. Description, once again, you can add whatever description you like. Very cool feature. You can also add different switches as far as an additional e-stop. You got an e-stop here for a pendant. It's got a lot of different features. So don't be overwhelmed by all this, guys. Let's just keep it real basic. And once again, you can see everything here. It's all broken down for you. User input. Once again, depending upon what input you're going with, and you just go right down the list. Output signals, same thing. Coming over here, output signals, everything here, go right down the list. And you will naturally correlate the signals based upon the G540. Whatever the G540 signal is what you're going to put in here. And when you purchase the system from me, I will actually send you the G540's pinout. And then you'll just go in and put the map pin for this specific allocated item you want to actually control. So in this case, pin 15 for the e-stop is what we want to actually be allocated to this input. That's why we're selecting that. If we were doing an output, for instance, and we wanted to do a relay, output 1, you do not used right now. If we do the drop down, we want to do pin 17, and that would be for actual output 1, which would once again be controlling a relay. Okay, for the G540. But once again, it's arbitrary. It's all up to the end user based on their specific needs. So let's keep it basic, keep it simple, and we can move on from there. Once again, once this is all done, you're going to hit the apply button once you've done all that. Warning: for correct operation required that only one function is defined to each output. You might get this warning message. Typically, you're not going to find that you're actually allocating more than one function to one output, so don't be worried about that. I just went through and cycled that, so that's sometimes it's just giving you a warning: device pins used for multiple functions, sim pin 10, 11, and 12. So okay, and you're set. So now you can check, and I highly recommend you doing that. Come over to settings. You'll make sure everything has been saved. Here's your axis. Everything here is set. You can see I've got my arbitrary upper limit, my arbitrary lower limit on my X, and if I went to another motor, you'll see Y, and then Z axis. The one thing I want to just let you guys briefly understand is that, again, a positive number will be on the upper limit, and a negative number or a 0 will be on the lower limit. For the particular project I was working on at the time, I needed a negative number. Now, I highly recommend you typically staying at 0, seeing if you have joy. If you don't, you can always adjust this parameter, but test it first. Test it first. It's arbitrary based on each individual user. You'll go through and test everything and see how it is based on what you're actually machining. Most systems will never exceed 0. Okay, so it'll be a 0 format and you're good. And again, very, very easy to break down. You can do your air motion movements to make sure that your soft limits are active. Okay, so we're good. Come over. Everything here is set. This warning message again. And you guys are already set for motion. The only thing you'll have to do then is turn on the system. You can test everything. Make sure your soft limit button is on. Some things to point out real quick. Your soft limit button, when activated, you can see this little box here in the right lower corner, the toolpath preview. You can see that it's actually illuminated green. If I turn it off, it turns red. You'll also know the grid is gone. Watch the grid. Come in, I'm zooming back so you can see the three-dimensional grid, and you can see your z-axis gives you the height up here. If I turn off the z-axis, watch what happens. You can see it goes away. So again, you want your soft limits can be turned on and off based on each individual axis. Very, very powerful. And again, it's all based on what requirement you have. Now, once you set the soft limits up and leave this button on, they're going to be on from when you turn on the software to when you turn it off. If I turn it off now, you're going to see the soft limit button is still active. So you know your system is protected. Again, much, much better protection than a physical switch, which will eventually fail. I've had many guys say, well, the switch never fails. You know, I've never had a switch fail. I've had guys use so many different arbitrary examples of this, saying in industry use it doesn't happen. I've seen it happen numerous times. Not only have I seen it happen, I've had guys crash their systems numerous times, and it's very costly. With the software up, and as long as the software is configured properly where this light is on and you've just set it one time, you never have to worry about it again. So it's something to really, really think about. Other than that, you might notice some messages over here. If you click on them, warning for correct operation required, it's just letting you know what messages it went through. You can clear them out, and then you can come over here, and you're all set. You guys should all be set for motion. Next step would be axis calibration. You'll go through the calibration wizard, and you guys are pretty much set there. It's pretty much a very straightforward process. So guys, I hope this video has helped make your life a lot easier. It's very, very simple software to use once you become familiar with it. If you do have questions, don't be afraid to come over here to help. Select User's Manual. Once again, I recommend everyone download the full PDF version. You can see right here is the page tree. You got general information. If you click on this, it's just going to bring you down all of the features. You've got everything, features of the system, and you can click on all of these topics and it'll just bring them up. Again, very well explained, very, very in-depth as far as what you're actually looking at. Just take your time. It's a very intuitive system. Previous releases with HardSoft. So again, just take your time with it. If you have questions, of course, I'm there. The big thing is that you've got the feature set right here. Come over to help, use your user's manual, and you guys are good. Once again, if you do need to message me, you contact me direct at storm2313@gmail.com. That's for consultations, quotes, questions, whatever it may be. To all my subscribers, I love you guys. I hope the video has been helpful. You can also message me through my eBay store at eDealers Direct. I'll put the links in the description at the beginning. You'll see it, and of course at the end of the video. Thank you all for support. Take care.